My introduction to Final Fantasy was actually through the Kingdom Hearts series back when I was about 9 years old. Fast forward to the release of Final Fantasy XV and I was finally ready to dip my toe into the world of Final Fantasy. And while people were pretty divisive with that game, it only took Square Enix 7 years to release the 16th entry in the long-lasting series on June 22nd, 2023. Will this game win over the fans they lost with Final Fantasy XV? Or will this be their final... I'm not even gonna finish the joke. It's too dumb. Hi, I'm Klubb, and welcome to Klubb's Hub. Wow, I can't even escape politics in video games nowadays either. Let's start with one of the biggest things people like to talk about with Final Fantasy games. 16, similar to 15, has decided to not use a turn-based battle system, but instead to be an action RPG. Gone are the days of choosing what attack you want to do and then waiting for the enemy to attack before you rinse and repeat. Some would argue that this type of combat style is called button mashing, and while they aren't completely wrong, you can definitely button mash your way to victory. I like to think of these type of games as informed button mashing. If I'm playing something like, I don't know, Street Fighter 2. I have no idea what combos do, and I quite literally just hit the buttons over and over until I win. Whereas on the other side with something like Smash Brothers, I know exactly what buttons to mash in order to do the thing I want on the screen. Anyways, this is a weird roundabout way of saying that Final Fantasy XVI is exactly the same. While you can press the attack button to win, there are several easy to use combos that you can perform to pull off some crazy moves and make for a more stylish fight. You see, our best boy here, Clive has the ability to use the power of icons. You know, the summons from the other Final Fantasy games. And using those powers, he can pull off some pretty advanced moves. And as the game progresses, you'll unlock more and more abilities you can use and then in turn, pick your own loadout for the type of playstyle you want to play. I won't go into great detail of all the powers you can get because then we'll be getting into some pretty heavy spoilers. But trust me, they get crazy powerful. But this combat system has put a huge divide in the Final Fantasy fanbase, which has led to some claiming that it's not even a real Final Fantasy game. Kind of reminds me of how people feel about the new Zelda games. To me, this is dumb. I get it. You grew up with a specific type of game, and that game or franchise is taking a different turn to keep up with the current trends or the ever-growing fanbase. Since I didn't grow up with Final Fantasy personally, I feel like my opinion on this doesn't weigh a whole lot. But from a certain point of view, I actually kind of get what they're getting at. The world, for one, isn't exactly open world. You have multiple points you can warp to and explore in that area, but honestly, there isn't a ton of reason to explore, and you just kind of go from one point of the map to the other. My instincts were to always go off the path and explore, but every time I did that, it led to disappointment. That's just not the type of game this is. Second, and I feel like this might have hurt a few people, there are no real party members. You do have people who join you on your missions, but it isn't like it is in the older games where you can individually control anyone, heal anyone, change their accessories, none of that. It's all gone. Now that didn't bother me personally, but to someone who grew up with that way of engaging with their party, I imagine it bothered them pretty heavily. Finally, and this one bothered me the most, there are almost zero status effects. There are a few enemies that will cast on themselves, like Protect or Bravery, but there's no Poison, Blind, Charm, Confuse, Paralyze, Silence, nothing. And with that, that also means that enemies have no elemental attribute either, meaning attacking a fire enemy with an ice attack does exactly the same damage if you were to attack that enemy with a fire attack. And while that heavily streamlines the process of attacking enemies, it then dominoes and affects the entire equipment system. Since there are no extra effects in the game, the new swords and armor you get in the game will always be as simple as equipping the thing with the higher numbers. There is never a strategy to picking any equipment in this game, and it's honestly super disheartening that an RPG has such a depressing equipment system. But that's not the only thing they streamlined to make the game easier, they also streamlined the fights in the game. If you, at any time, die in a fight, what do you think happens? Do you think you would A, reset to right before you enter the fight, B, click a retry button and restart the fight after the cutscene, or C, you're booted to the title screen? If you said B, you're wrong. The right answer is D, click a retry button and start the fight with most of the boss's health gone and all of your potions are maxed out. This is so baffling to me. I swear that the game devs think that we're getting stupider and stupider. I don't need a handicap, I want a challenge. Them doing that makes it so that there is absolutely no risk of going into a fight. It kind of takes away from that edge of your seat feeling that you get. Now, I get it. If that's how you want to play the game, some people just want to relax. But that ain't me. They even ask you at the beginning of the game if you want a story mode or an action mode, and regardless of what you pick, not only do the fights work exactly the same, but they give you these accessories that make the game even easier. Stop treating me like a kid! The game really said shee. Really though, that equipment and the fight thing is the only thing that bothered me in this game, and I kind of feel like I'm grasping at that point to find something that I don't like. This game is just so much fun. The combat system makes you feel like you're pulling off all these sick moves, and they even managed to find a way to make QuickTime events feel fun and impactful. And that's not even to mention all the fights that you have as an icon. There are so many fights in this game where you think to yourself, oh my gosh, that was intense! I hope the game didn't just peak, and the answer to that question is always no. The fights just keep getting bigger and bigger and never stop being so much fun. There's even moments where you think, oh, this is a cool cutscene and all, but I really wish I was participating in the, oh wait, I am! The fights just go 100% of the time. And it all starts with everyone's favorite Karen in the game, Benedicta Cumberbatch. Hey, don't vape! That's gonna kill you! Do you know how bad that is for your lungs?
Benedicta.
In all seriousness though, the real star of the game is its super well-written story. Fun fact, did you know that the developers of this game had to watch Game of Thrones before they were even able to start work on the game? And it really shows. There are several moments in the story where I could easily tell where they were inspired by Game of Thrones, with the biggest difference being that this is better than Game of Thrones. I feel like that's a pretty easy feat to accomplish though. But of course, Square has to be Square and make a super confusing and overcomplicated story. Except this time, they came prepared and gave us the tools to help better understand it. I've mentioned in a previous video that when I play Final Fantasy or Kingdom Hearts games, I will constantly pause the game and Google answers to put the mental puzzle pieces together. Well, this game gives you that ability at any time while you're watching cutscenes. You all know that thing on Amazon Prime, X-Ray, I think it's called, where you can pause it and it will tell you the name of the actor that's on the screen? That's exactly what this is. Active time lore, as they call it, is the ability to pause the game at any time and go, who dat? And it will give you a rundown of everything you need to know about them up to that point of where you are in the game. But not only people, but also places, ideas, politics, and so much more. Active time lore is a huge lifesaver and makes it so unbelievably easy to follow this story beat for beat. And if at any point you want to go more in depth, you can visit the 1,000 Tomes and look into any active time lore you might have missed. Not only this, but they also added a section called the State of the Realm, which will show you every person and place you've seen in the game and what their relationship is with other people or nations throughout the game. Final Fantasy XVI's story is so rich with content, and I'm so happy they gave us an in-game ability to understand everything from bearers and dominants to places like Waloed and
Drake's breath.
You used to call me on my...
And that's not even to mention all the wonderful, well-written characters you'll meet along your journey. I swear that almost every character you meet in this game has a beginning, middle, and end throughout the entire story. Whether it's your childhood friend Jill, or the huggable giant Goots, or even of course this Final Fantasy Cid. And you know I can't forget the bestest boy in the whole wide world, Torgal. Oh, who's a sweet, sweet puppy? Torgal is? That's right, yes he is. Torgal's a good boy, yes you are. Yes you are. Do you want a treat? Do you want a treat? Whoa, why is he so big? Oh.
Just this very morn, I found him with his nose buried in my nuts.
Another huge plus to the story and characters is that almost everything is voiced, which is always a huge plus to me. I find it way easier to engage with the world and characters if they're given a proper voice. It makes me become way more attached to the character and heightens my overall emotions when a voice actor gives a stellar performance. And I don't think there was a single voice that felt off throughout my entire playthrough, except maybe one or two who I won't mention for spoiler reasons, other than the fact that they're all British and I can barely understand some of the minor characters if they don't have subtitles.
No time to haggle with whoever holds your leash. You and the Marfors, are you? Good. She won't begrudge me the use of you then. Well, there's wolves about, laid out, baked. Think we might swoop in and slaughter a lot.
Besides that, I can't express this enough. This story might be one of the best stories in gaming we've had in a long time. Everything about it hits just right, and it pairs so nicely with the fun and engaging combat. The last game I played that had this good of a story was God of War Ragnarok, and I would definitely go as far as saying that the Final Fantasy XVI story is better than that. Not by much, but I'm confident it's better. The story just hits you from every angle. Humor, sadness, hatred, excitement, happiness, wholesomeness, grief, disgust, surprise, and so on and so on. This game is an emotional roller coaster from beginning to end, and I can't wait to get back in line. But where does it sit on the wheel of ranking? Let's give it a spin and find out. Final Fantasy XVI is my number 6 favorite game of all time. Now you might see that number and think that it might need to be a little bit higher, but listen, this is being compared to every game I've played, and there are way too many good games out there. That's why, on top of giving a game a ranking, I've also decided to give it a tier as well. You know tiers, right? S, A, B, C, D, F, yeah, cool, alright. So yeah, this game is easily S tier, like hands down. Despite my minor complaints with the RPG elements of the game, Final Fantasy XVI sits high and mighty of being one of the best games I've ever played. I would happily recommend this game in a heartbeat, and I hope that just as many people get to experience one of the best stories in gaming that they're going to see in a while. But now, I wonder who's gonna win Game of the Year? Zelda or Final Fantasy? This has been a crazy year for gaming, and it's only gonna get crazier. Well, if you wanna check out the rest of my ranking or tier list, or if you wanna follow me on socials, you can click the link below. Also, be sure to subscribe and let me know what you think of Final Fantasy XVI. Or you can just tell me my opinion doesn't matter because I didn't grow up with Final Fantasy. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you continue to have a chill day.